Welcome back to the SSAS and MDX training sessions class 11. So in last session we discussed about few things. What are those few things? Confirm dimensions and role-playing dimensions, and also we discussed about the templates for designing time dimensions on server and on the underlying database, and also how to create template. How to make use of templates to create the product dimensions and so on. Now, oops. Okay. This is cube. Cube got separated. Okay, fine. So now let's start with the calculations tab. So calculations are pretty important in SSAs. So if you remember, I mentioned in one of the sessions, the initial sessions, that even though the data is small, people generally think if the data is huge, then SSAs improves the performance of the querying or performance for the reports by pre-aggregating the data. Now, what if I also mentioned that if the database is small, still people want to go with analysis services due to two reasons. One is slicing and dicing is easy, and another one is few calculations which you need in for your data analysis is easy to generate in analysis services compared to generate it on underlying database, which is RDBMS, relational database systems. Now let's see what are those calculations and how you can create calculations and what's the use of it. So if you see, calculations is nothing but a script file where you will have where it should start with the calculate keyword, which means this is a hint to analysis services while deploying that from here the calculations start. Okay, and without this calculate it won't work. I'll show you when we discuss about the different errors that you will see or you will face when you work on analysis services. Now, how to create calculations. If you see an icon here, new calculator member and a new NameSet and new script command. Script command we are not going to discuss because this is something I've never worked. I can give you one simple example of scope. If this script command is used for creating scope, if you go to NameSet, we will discuss about this NameSets and calculator members a lot. So calculated member is nothing but creating a calculation on the aggregated data. So in relational database, if you create a calculated member in a SQL query, generally it will be on the pre-aggregated data. Or if you create a column in your data source view, let's say you can create a column as we discussed, let's say sales amount. Let me name it to a named query, or let me add a new named calculation. I'll name it as named cals. Let me take any two columns here. Let's say unit price into tax rate. I'm just showing a dummy example. So I'm multiplying these two, and you see the column is created, and if I explore the data, you'll see a new column at the end, unit price into tax, right? That is 13 into 15, it's 195. Okay, so if you see this is also a calculation, but this calculation is on pre-aggregated data. This is not aggregated data. If you say this is free data, this is root data, what you have in the SQL Server. But the calculations tab will give you an option to create the calculations on the aggregated data. That is the advantage. That is the major advantage. Now this will be on free data. It will be on row basis. Every row it will calculate and it will give you the data. Let me show you one example in SQL between this pre-aggregated data calculation and post-aggregated data calculation. So let me connect to SQL. And let me take sales. And if I copy the same syntax I'll add it at the start so that easy to see. As new column, and you see this is a pre-aggregated data, or this is a calculated column on pre-aggregated data. So every row level it is calculating and it is giving you the values. Now post-aggregated data, how the post-aggregated stuff will be. So if you see the post-aggregated, select star from fact.sale. Oops, it's a sale. And let's say I want to see the data like sale unit price into tax rate for every year, or a group by year, or something like that. So I'll name it as a inner join dimension dot, I think, date b on a dot invoice date is equal to b dot date. Now I'll group by what you call year, comma, I'm taking sum of unit price, and I'm taking sum of tax rate. I'll name it as UP, TP, group by year. So what this query will do is this will, oops, invalid column year, maybe calendar year. Okay, that's right. So if I execute it, what it will do is it will group by year, it will get all the records, and it will take the sum of the value. Okay, now you can have a multiplication on this. So if you see, first it is pre-calculating, it is calculating what is the total sales for the year 2013. It is aggregating the data by year and getting the data for unit price and the tax price, and then it is multiplying. So this is on the aggregated data. The first one, if you see, that's on the free data, general data. Okay, now this is a simple calculation. You will get very complex calculations to analyze your, that's required for your cubes to analyze your business. So for example, if you want to see what is the sales price or what is the total sales this month of this year compared to the last year same month, and how much change it has been from last year same month to this month, what is the increase in the sales or what is the decrease in the sales. So all those kind of calculations are very complex to write in your SQL. So if you go for cube, the calculations are pretty easy. Comparatively, it's very easy. Okay, now we understood, right, what is the difference between the calculating calculations on pre-aggregated values and on the post-aggregated values. So whatever the calculations that you create in the data source view are pre-aggregated, and whatever the calculations that you create on the cube, it's on the aggregated data. Now let's see a simple example of checking how to create a calculation. Let's go with the same example, unit price multiplied by tax price. I'll name it as total price. I'm poor in giving good names. And what is the hierarchy? Where you want to show this? I want to show this in measures. And what is the parent member? You can leave it, you can ignore it. If it is some dimensions, you'll get that. We'll discuss that. And under the expression, this is where you will specify the expression. And you can take the help of functions, whatever the functions you can use by using these, or templates, like for analytics, like filter by attribute value, or bottom end count, bottom end percent, or financial like gross profit, and so on. You can just take the examples like net sales minus cost of goods sold. It gives you some hints if you don't know. If sometimes you will get a requirement saying that create year on year or net sales or future value and so on. So if you say net sales, it will give you gross sales minus total returns plus total discounts plus total allowances. So if you have these fields, you can bring those measures so that it will calculate for you. So this template is nothing but a hint to you. Okay. And if you see time series, you will be closing period value, periods to date, how to calculate periods to date, and so on. This helps a little bit in creating the calculations for you. Now, let's go with the metadata. And so the formula that we are thinking, oops, it's not periods to date. Let me delete all this stuff. Okay, for total price. So the formula we are looking for is, what is the tax amount or tax price, right? So I don't have those measures. Let me add those measures quickly. What is the tax price or tax rate? Unit price. And what is the other one? Tax price or tax rate? I think it's tax rate. Okay. Now, if I go and check this, I'll not find those columns until I process the cube, because these are not deployed into your server and these are not available there. Let me quickly deploy and process it. Okay, it's deployed. It failed due to some reason. Let's quickly check. Okay, so now it is saying that this is one of the error that you see if there is any syntax in your MDX script of the calculation. So it's saying that you added something, but there is no expression given for this. So let me add some expression for now. For time being, I just added 1, so it will show 1 for, until we process it. So the expression is blank, and it's saying you try to create a calculation, but you have not given any expression for that, and that's why it's failing. Now it succeeded. It read all the records. Let's see. And I can reconnect, and I can see these fields. Now, the formula that we were looking for is tax rate to unit price. So when you make any changes to the calculated measures like formula and all, you don't need to deploy that. Remember, sorry, you don't need to process it. You just need to deploy it. So for example, now I made formula change. I can just deploy the project. If I deploy the project, then this change will be taken. This is only for calculations. Remember, not for all the dimension properties and all. Only anything related to the calculations or anything related to the perspectives and perspectives. So if you make any changes, I think even for KPIs, if you just deploy it, the changes will be taken. Now let me go to the cubes. Let me browse it. Okay, we created one. We have given one formula, just one formula called total price, and this formula will calculate at any grain of the cube that you are in. So now this total price is at the grain, at the highest grain, like all the bill to customer, all the customers, all the derived dates, all the invoice dates. What is the total tax rate into unit price? It will give you the tax rate to the unit price. Now let me break it down. So you don't need to write separate queries or separate formulas for different grain of the calculations. So for example, if you want to see by customer, just drag it and it will break and it will give you the value, the total price, which we have calculated as unit tax rate into unit price multiplied by unit price. So if you drag and drop, you see those values too next to that, and you can cross check that if you want to. If you multiply these two, then it will give you the exact value. And also you can slice by any attribute that has relationship to this measure group where you have this calculation. So this measure group is sale, and this sale has a relationship to the bill to customer, customer derived date, and invoice date, and everywhere it will get calculated. Like for example, invoice date to date, it will give you day wise calculation here. Similarly, we have the data for year, right? We calculated in our SQL. So you can drag and drop the year, and you can calculate click to execute the query, and you can see the data. So if you see, the calculation was pretty simple. You have given what are those two that should be in the multiplication, and that's it. It's all done. So You see the calculation is in. And there are a few properties here. Let's discuss about few properties, additional properties which are key. The first thing is format string. How you want to format it. If you see there are default values, standard, currency, percentage. If you select percent, it will show you percentage at the end. Like if I deploy that, I selected percent. Okay, this is deployed. So this is one problem here. Let me connect to Excel. This browser is not the best one to test the data. Even the formatting, nothing will work in the browser. So let's quickly check in Excel. So when you select percent, it should show the data in percent. Similarly, if you select currency, it should show the data in currency. Analysis services. We select dot, importers, finish. Yes. Okay. And let me select which cube it connected to. I think it's connected to a different cube. Let me select a new data connection here. So there are multiple cubes in my server, so I think it connected to my bed. Okay, I have one more pivot. Total price. If you see at the end, it is showing in percentage. So this percentage, if you see here, it won't show this part. So that's the difference. And even the value is different. I have to see why it is. But we'll see it's into percentage, right? It takes into 100 will be calculated. If you see 904.8, right? Here 904.8 will become into 100, so it become 480.00. So the percentage means the formula into 100 and show the percentage sign at the end. So that is what it's happening here. But here it's not showing properly because this is a problem with the browser here. If you reprocess it, you may see that. Let me quickly check that. You will see 90480.00 maybe, but not the percentage. Percentage, I've never seen percentage in the versions, in the browser versions that we have after, from 2012. So let me quickly reconnect, total price. It's not taking the percentage at all. Forget about that. So this is the actual value. Don't trust this browser always. The formatting, it won't show formatting. It won't show the percentages. It won't show the currencies. Dollar sign. That has the problem, the browser. But this is fine. You trust with the with your MDX queries or with your Excel server. Now, this is nothing but the percentage, or what format string you want to see. The output should be an integer, right? So what format string it should be? Standard means it will show like comma separator at the thousands, or this standard is equal to this. This currency is equal to this. This percentage is equal to this. This short date is equal to this, and this long date is equal to this. But here, you will not have an option to edit that. But on the other end, you will have an option to edit it. For example, if you see to edit, what I mean is, here it's showing .000. If you don't want to show .00 and there will be no negative values, you can edit it and you can just leave it hash comma hash hash 0. That means it will be non-decimal values and it will be a comma separator at thousands. Okay, so there are two options with the same meaning, but the second one you can edit it. That's it. If you are confident that you won't get, like for example, counts won't get any negative values, right? If you see the until semicolon, it is positive value. After semicolon, it is negative value. Okay, if you say that, if you know that you are not going to get this, then you can change it, or even you can change this comma here to a different place like this. Okay, but in US the numbers will be 1000 separated. And the second option is visible. You want to make it visible or hide it from the user. So if you set it to false, it will be disabled. or it won't be shown in the Cube browser. If you set it to true, it shows. That's it, the visible and non-empty behavior is very important property. Let's say this calculation is not tax rate into unit price. Instead of instead of that, it is unit price divided by tax rate. If this is the calculation, what will happen if the tax rate is null? Or null means it will become zero. What will be it is zero? Any number divided by zero is infinity. So you will get infinity error. So for that case, you can use non-empty behavior, which will improve the performance of your calculation. Sometimes the calculations will go crazy, and it will take a lot of performance. It will have a lot of performance issues. So the non-empty behavior helps in such cases. So non-empty behavior says that if whatever you specify here is empty, then this calculation will not happen. Instead of calculating, it will show null over there. Like for example, let me select the customer key or customer. Okay. And if you see here, every customer has some percentage into multiplication into percentage, right? Let's say this guy does not have any tax rate. Then instead of calculating this unit price divided by tax price, it will simply place null next to the guy. So it will take null if there is no denominator value or whatever the value that you specify in this non-empty behavior. So when you have anything like divided by, then people prefer to go with the non-empty behavior and select the tax rate, whatever it is in the denominator, so that if it is null, it will automatically convert the whole row into null. So if this guy has null, then this will be null. If this guy has null, this will be null. Instead of calculating, it will blindly return null for that. So that is non-empty behavior. And associated measure group. So if you see the calculations here, where is that browser? If you see the calculations, it is showing the total price under measures, right? So you can associate to any one of the measure groups. What is the measure group here? Measure group is sale in this case. I have only one measure group. If you have multiple measure groups, you can show the same calculation in different measure groups. So here I can specify, okay, show this calculation under sale. I don't want to show it separately like an orphan here, just like this. And if you want to provide any name for that, I can give it as calculation. So under sale, it will create calculations, and then it will place that particular calculated member under that folder. Let me quickly deploy it just to show you the differences. Okay, this is deployed. Let me reconnect here. And under measures, it should not be there. Under sale, it created a folder called calculations. Under calculations, it has placed the new calculation that we have created now. So let me refresh here too. And you see now that divided by this, the value is calculated now. You see that? I changed the formula and it has been changed. And if you see here under it's created a under sale, it created a folder called calculations. Under that it has this total price, which I have selected now. So these are the different properties, additional properties we have. There are few other properties which will not be much of useful, like for example color expressions and font expressions. So this is like forecolor and back color. You can write some MDX to set the color of this. Sounds funny, right? So let me say, I don't remember people working on this, but let me show you an example. Font expressions, font size, font flags, back color, forecolor. Okay, I'll give this as white. Forecolor, I'll select white. Where is this white? Okay. And back color, I'll select black. Okay. Now let me deploy it. So when you run an MDX query with all the default structure, then this will work. Like for example, if you see the back color has been changed to black, and forecolor, the font color, forecolor in the sense, has been changed to white. And if you're too good in MDX, you can play with it. Like for example, if you select here, you should have an option like you can write an expression here. So like for example, if the value is greater than, let me try that. As I mentioned, I've never used this case when this value greater than 4, then this else. What color we can select? White and yellow. Earlier I remember there was what you called an expression builder for this, but I don't see it now. Let's see if this, hopefully this works. So this got deployed. Let me refresh it. It is not picking up. Let me take out this build to customer. Why this is not changing? Okay. What happened to this? Okay, let me process it. Okay, this is fine. Let me refresh it once. Pivot table cube connection failed. Is involved import tested. It is not refresh. Continue to refresh all. Okay, something is wrong with my system maybe. Let me check with a new connection. Okay. Okay. So let me go to the calculations. So looks like it has some syntax error. That's why it's not picking up. So let's see. There was a option to add custom colors. No. There was an option to write an if case. Case when, then. This is an MDX query. Is it double quotes or single quotes? Or I can do something. Wait. Sometimes this black and white will not be there. Let me select this value and let me set this 0, or let me set it to yellow. Okay. Okay. Let me quickly deploy it. And let me select this total price. Okay, it is showing black. And let me select the bill to customer. This is what we have selected before. So now if you see, it has taken two colors. Always it is going for black. It is always greater than 4. And this is 3. Oops, my bad. I'm changing the 4 color. My intention was to change this back color for that, and I'll set the 4 color as white always, okay, or black always. So case when greater than 4, then set it to white, else set it to yellow, okay, and here the 4 color is always black. This is what my intention is. So let me deploy it again. And Shweta, as you mentioned, I tried to write only MDX code, but there was some syntax error. I think it was not double quotes. It may be something else. So it is showing all white for the back color and black for the 4 color. So what is the value that I've given? Greater than 4? This is not greater than 4. Then white. Where is that yellow? This is a hectic thing. N. Okay, let me try one last time. Refresh. Okay, now if you see, if it is greater than 4 or greater than or equal to or greater than 4, maybe it's 4 dot something. So it is, see, this is showing yellow and this is showing white. The reason is this may be having some 4.12345. I truncated it only for 2. Now this is exact 4, that's why it is showing yellow. Anything less than 4, less than or equal to 4 will be in yellow. So just to check that, if you set greater than or equal to 4, now all the 4s and above should be in white color. Let's quickly see. Earlier it was syntax error where I was using double quotes. I think it was single quotes. Okay, refresh this. Is it working or no? Greater than or equal to 4, then this. Let me do it in a different way. Let me set 3 decimals to that so that it will give you the exact value. So I've never used this before. Maybe you have to use this in your works. So now if you see, what we are thinking as 4 is actually 3.820. That is why it was showing in yellow. And what we were thinking it as 4 was 4.098. That's why it was showing white. So the formula that we have given was like greater than 4, then show it in white, the background, else the background is yellow. And if I take out this decimal, this guy, whatever I'm highlighting here, will become 4. And even anything that is greater than 3.5 will become 4. So that is why it was showing in yellow color. Hope now you understood. And remember, anything that you change here in this page, calculations page, you just need to deploy the cube. You don't need to reprocess the whole cube. That is one good advantage. The reason is these calculations are executed at runtime. So only the syntax will be stored on the server. And whenever you use this calculation in your MDX, then only it will be triggered and it will be executed. There is no pre-processing. The major difference between the calculation that you create in the data source view and the calculated member that you create in the cube is calculated measure or calculated column that you create in the data source view is executed at the time of processing. So when you process the data, then that will be executed, right? But these calculations are executed at runtime. So at the runtime, these calculations will be evaluated and this will be calculated and return the result. Another one is another difference is the data source view calculated member are pre-calculated. Those are calculated on the root level data, leaf level data, and these calculated members are calculated on the aggregated data. So if you see, when the cube is processed, the data will be aggregated and stored, but this calculation will not be calculated. This syntax will be stored on the server. When you use this calculation in your MDX saying that I want total price, then it will go and get the aggregated unit price, and it will go and get the aggregated tax rate at the grain that you are looking for, and then it will multiply or divide it, whatever the formula that is. In our case, like for example, if I take out this from here, then it will get the total, what is that, total unit price and total tax rate at this grain, and then it will do divided by. That is why if you see, the value will be very close to 3 point something. And if it is pre-aggregated and if you sum it, it will be different. I can show you an example for that one too. Like if you have your SQL here, let's say this is the formula we're going for, and if I execute it, this is the value, total value, right? First column, it will be like 0.8, 0 point something, and so on. Now, if you try to calculate this sum, this will be the total sum what you will get if you add it as a calculated member in your analysis in your data source view. But on the other side, if you do it in the if you do it on the aggregated data, you will get this value. Let me show you that. Unit price divided by sales amount. So these kind of values you'll be getting. If you see, the value is within either 3, 2, 3, 3, and so on. So this is on the aggregated data, and it will be on whatever the grain that you selected in the group by. Like for example, if you select calendar month number, or month label is better, I guess. Then it will get the values at the calendar month grain, and then it will calculate this value. So that is the advantage. A few calculations you need to calculate at the process time, which are calculated members, and calculated columns. Few calculations you need to calculate at the query execution time. So we call them as calculated members in the cube. So similarly, here I have written an MDX query. You can use if case, if class also, IIF, and that's again MDX. Similarly, you can color code for the text based on some conditions. So if you write some case statement here, it should be something like if the sales is less than $100, then show it in red color because that is performing very poor. If it is greater than $10,000, that is the best product, show it in green color. So you can have custom coloring. And if you see, if the user sees the data in Excel, then they don't need any KPIs or any rag status kind of thing. They can get some hint about the data, about the sales of a particular product, which is performing good, which is not performing good, which is average kind of. Similarly, you can go for font names with the case statement. If if it is greater than 4, show it in bold and show it in bigger size, something like that. Let me have this here, and greater than 4, show it in this format, this stuff, and show it in, let's say, 26. Okay, so there is a name for this. I'm copying it here. If it is else case, show the numbers in this format, bold, and this is too big, right? Let me show it in this MS Outlook. So now, again, I made some change. Let me quickly deploy it. I don't like to show or test all this stuff, to be honest. Okay. Let me get the bill to customer. The font is not changing. Maybe something needs to be corrected here. Let's quickly check that. Do you see any change in the font? No, right? Okay, let me show with only one. Let me go with only one and see if it is showing an impact. Okay, go under data and refresh all. This itself is not showing any impact, maybe. Or maybe I have to change it in every place. Let me set this Mistral bold font style or font size. Let me change it here, 48. This is a pain. And let me refresh it. Now this is not impacting here. Maybe this is not the client tool that you can test it, or I don't know. To be honest, I don't know what's the reason why it is not picking it up. This is the one I selected, and this is what it should be. Okay, you try that, and I'll also try that why it is not working, and we'll see that. I mean, as I said, this is not an important options, but it's good. It's nice to have. But something, maybe the syntax is wrong or something like that. Let me take out this, and let me give only the font size. At least the size should get bumped up, like to 45, 48 size or whatever. No, it's not picking up. Maybe something is missing, or I may have to create a new connection again. Or few things may require processing. I'm not sure. Or see, something is wrong here. That's why it is disabled. Or let me check it. Something is wrong. I've not given anything here. So okay, I'll try that. I'll try that later. I just want to cover one more topic real quick before I end the session. The topic here is the named set. The named set is very, very, very important in few calculations. So you can improve the performance if you use the named sets, and in few cases you can define a named set with a predefined set of values. Like for example, in this case, let's say I'm creating a named set with super customers. Okay, so if you want to get the super customers, what I can do here is I can take the reconnect customer name, and or else I can pick one single customer who is my favorite. So this is MDX expression. Once we discuss about MDX, you will come to know about this. And you can specify whether it's a dynamic or static. I'll set it as static, and display folder I'll say named sets, and let me deploy it or process it once. So named set is nothing but a collection of members of a single attribute. So what is the collection of a collection of members? I'll show you that I'll show you that shortly. So let me refresh it. This is here. What is that? If you see under the dimension, what I have used to create the named set, you can see a folder called named sets, and you can select the super customers. If you select the super customers, what will happen is only the guy that I have selected will be here. So when I say members here, all the members of an attribute, any attribute you can take. Like for example, you have so many members for this attribute customer, so you can pick any number of customers that you mark them as a super customers. Let's say for example, I select 2 guys, or maybe more. I select 3 guys. Okay, I selected 3 guys, and always remember the sets should be in flower braces. So I created a set with 3 guys, and I'm deploying it. And if I refresh it, once it's deployed there, I should see the data for those 3 guys whom I'm marking as super customers. So set is nothing but a collection of members from a single attribute. If you remember, I pulled 3 guys from the same attribute. I cannot pull the guys from different attributes. So this is a static set. This is purely static. Whatever you have in the filter conditions, it won't have any impact. And you can also create dynamic sets. Like for example, top count of let's say this customer. Okay, give me customer top count of 10 guys based on his profits. So this is an MDX query. I'm asking for top count of the customer top 10 guys whose profit is, the highest. So if I select it as static, remember this is a very important point. If I select it as static, a static set will be created. A static set in the sense, let me deploy it. So a static set in the sense, these set members will not be changed forever. So these 10 guys will be there forever. Let's say tomorrow, the same customer, a new customer joined or new customer is there who is making more profit. Okay, who is making more profit, but still that guy will not be included here into the top 10. The reason is I'm asking the server to create a static set. Now let me quickly drag the profit from here, and these guys are the top guys, top 10 profit guys. Okay, now let me explain difference between the static and the, let's say this is your set of members. You selected top 10 and you mark it as static. So it creates this 10 members and it will forget about that. So throughout the life, only these 10 guys. If the set is you mark it as static. Now let's say there is 11th guy who made more profit than all these 10 guys, but this guy will never make into this top 10 because you mark this as static. Static means it will go check the values, check the members profit and get the top 10 members at the time of creating the set or at the time of deploying the set. So it is one time, it won't be changing. Now if you want to get always the top 10 guys, always the top 10 guys, today top 10, who are they, after 10 days who is the top 10, and after 20 days who is the top 10. If you want to get always the top 10, then you need to mark this as dynamic set. So the dynamic set means whenever you try to call that, it will go and execute and get the top 10 guys, whoever are the top 10 guys. So you don't need to write this MDX every time in your query. Instead of that, you can call these super customers. If you call these super customers, it will go and get the top 10 guys every time. Instead of using this whole stuff in your calculation or in your MDX query, you can use these super customers always. So super customers definition is it's always top 10 guys who are good by the profits. So that's the difference between static and dynamic. Remember, static means at the time of creation, it will go and check the top 10, whatever the formula you specify there, whatever the expression you have given, based on that, it will go and get the attribute members of the customer or whatever you are specifying here, and it will save that list or it will save that set of members. If you set it as dynamic, every time whenever you call it, it will go and calculate and get the top 10 guys or bottom 10 guys based on the expression that you have given. And also remember, set is nothing but the collection of members from the same attribute, from a single attribute. You cannot pull one guy from here and one guy from buying group. That will be a tuple. That is not a set. So set means you have to make sure that the members are coming from one single guy. Let me do one thing. I never tried, but I would like to give a try here. What I'm trying to do here is I'm going for buying group and two things in here. Okay. And let me deploy it. Let me run it. And let's see what set of members it's gonna get. It may get 20, who knows. So it is what it is doing here is this guy plus this guy, combination top 10 it is getting. So set of 10 combination attributes. So 10 guys, top 10 here, cross joining with top 10 here. I mean, when these two are in combination, what are the top 10? So those 10 combinations are bringing in here. Okay. So this is how you can define it. But if you give attribute members from different members from different attributes like this is one member, and let me go for another member, let's say ns1, then this will not work. Definitely this is gonna be a tuple and this is not a set. So let me deploy it. So you have to make sure that the members should be from same attribute or same kind of tuples. Let me execute it. Okay, members or tuples or sets must be the same hierarchies in the function. So I've given a different set of guys, members from different attributes. That's why it is throwing this error message. Make sure here, if you say you have two different attributes, but it's a combination. We call these two as one tuple, 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 and so on. So it's a collection of tuples is also a set. You will come to know when we discuss about MDX a lot about these tuples and sets. So remember, it should be always of the same attribute members. Here it's a two different thing and it cannot be a set. It cannot be a set, but it can be a tuple. Don't get confused. When we discuss about MDX, we're gonna see a lot. Now I made it as a tuple instead of set. Let's see, it's gonna return the data now. I deployed it. I refreshed this. That tuple does not have any values. That combination does not have any values. That's why it is not returning anything here. Tomorrow, if they get some values for that combination, then it will return that when you use the super customers. So this is about the named sets, dynamic named sets, and static named sets, and how to create calculations. And the calculation that we have created is very simple one, and there will be a lot of complex calculations. And for that, you need to know MDX queries a lot. So like that, I'll be using these case statements, I'll be using these if statements or tuple, set, these kind of terms, and you will be getting confused if I work on complex calculations. We will see some percentages and so on when we complete our MDX sessions. First, we'll go to MDX and then we'll come back to the calculations and wherever MDX is required in this cube page. As far as I know, you need MDX in calculations page and KPIs. Hardly those two, or maybe a little bit on actions. That's it. That's it for today, guys, and we will catch up tomorrow with new interesting topics. Thank you for joining. Have a great day.